broke an Appalachian rule I was told as a kid. If you grew up around here, you learn certain rules. Don't whistle at night. Don't answer something that calls your name from the woods. And if you hear someone you love outside your window after dark, don't look. My grandmother used to say that last one like it wasn't superstition, like it was a seatbelt. You look, she'd say, and it knows you can see it. I always thought she meant coyotes or bears. I don't anymore. It was 1:47 a.m. when I heard my mom's voice outside my bedroom window. Soft, calm. "Hey, son." My stomach dropped immediately. My mom lives 40 minutes away. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Then it came again, closer to the glass this time. Open the window. Same voice, same tone, but something about it felt flattened, like someone doing an impression. I stayed still, didn't answer. That's another rule. Then it said something only she would know, a nickname she hasn't used since I was 10. "Come on, just look at me." I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, auditory hallucinations, anything but what my grandmother meant. The voice shifted slightly. "Why won't you look at me?" Still soft, still patient. That made it worse. Then it said, "You always used to look for monsters under the bed." Pause. There aren't any under there. Something scraped lightly against the siding, right beneath my window, and I broke the rule. I looked. She was standing at the edge of the yard, just past the tree line, wearing my mom's face, but wrong. Too tall, shoulders too narrow, arms hanging just a little too long. Her head tilted slightly, like it wasn't used to sitting on that neck. The face was almost perfect. Almost. The smile stretched too far back. Her eyes weren't focused on me. They were fixed on the reflection in the glass. Watching herself. Adjusting. When our eyes finally met, her expression changed instantly. Not confused, not angry. Delighted. Her mouth opened wider than it should have, and she started laughing. High, sharp, wrong, and said, "I got you," in a shrill voice. Then she stepped backward, not turning, not blinking, just sliding into the trees, still smiling. I don't remember grabbing my phone. I just remember calling my mom. She picked up on the second ring. "Hello?" She sounded half asleep. Normal. "Mom?" My voice was shaking. "I think I just had a nightmare." Silence. Not the kind where someone's thinking. The kind where someone is listening. "Mom?" A soft breath crackled through the speaker. Then, very quietly, "I'm inside." The whisper wasn't tired. It wasn't confused. It sounded close. Right next to me. And then it laughed. Not loud, not sharp. A thin, careful laugh, like it was trying not to wake someone up. The call ended. The house was completely silent. No footsteps. No doors opening. No breathing. Nothing. That's what scares me the most. Because my grandmother didn't just say, "Don't look." She said, "Looking is the same as opening the door." And I looked.
I saw two full-bodied apparitions of soldiers in Gettysburg on the battlefield. What's a better way to tell you my Gettysburg ghost story than in Gettysburg on the battlefield? About 12 years ago, my wife and I went to Gettysburg just for the day, just to kind of see, the battlefield, get some ice cream, and experience some fun things. Both of us highly believed in ghosts at the time, but we weren't very, open about it, and especially not as open as I am about it now. We get into Gettysburg, we pull off to the side of a battlefield, and we get out, and we're staring into the battlefield, and there's a wooden battlefield gate going across, and you're not supposed to go, onto the battlefield. And like through the wheat that's growing in the battlefield, we literally look out and we both see 2 soldiers. And I turn to her and I'm like, there must be a reenactment today. I was like, you see that, right? She's like, yeah, like you could see their entire uniform and their gun and their gun holster that, would swing over them to put their gun in on the side. And as we're staring at them, I'm like, that's crazy. Why is it only 2 of them? Like, if there's a reenactment, why are 2 of them just walking through the field? Then their legs start to dissipate. And then before we know it, we're literally staring at them, like full-bodied, color and all. We're literally staring right at them. Legs disappear. Then they just like disappear into thin air and they are gone. And we're just like, what just happened? That was my experience with my first full body apparition with color. Literally seen it with my own eyes, and my wife was right there to see it with me too. It's very hard to come to Gettysburg and not have an experience every time you come, especially if you're looking for ghosts. This town has so much heartache and sadness, and there were so many unalivings here in such a short period of time. A lot of this energy is completely residual, and you can feel it when you're going, to certain places, but some of it is very intelligent. If you've been to Gettysburg, if you've had an experience in Gettysburg, leave me a comment down below. I want to know. I'll see you back soon.
I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and one of my first jobs was working as a tour guide in a cave. Sometimes I would be down in the bottom of the cave on boat duty, which is something you rotate doing, and the power would go out. I'd be down there completely in the dark in the bottom of this cave in the Appalachian Mountains. And if you don't know anything about the Appalachian Mountains, it's some of the oldest mountains on Earth. There are tons of cryptid stories, tons of missing person stories, especially around the cave systems. So you would hear things in the dark in this cave that are not explainable. I heard a lot of those things, and the only time you have light down there, if the lights go out, is with your flashlight. And there's a certain time on this tour where they actually turn the lights out, so that way you get to experience complete and total darkness. If you've never been in a cave before, when there's no manufactured light, it is like an unexplainable darkness. You can have your eyes wide open and you can't see your hand in the front of your face. So if you're down there on boat duty, often you're by yourself and you're down there for hours at a time with nobody coming down there, and there's no kind of music, there's no Wi-Fi, nothing like, not back when I worked there. We didn't have an iPhone to look at things on or play games on. There's no contact with the outside world. If the lights go out and you're by yourself and you don't have access to your flashlight, you better not move, because you could fall in the water. And worse, there's sections in this cave that are not open to the public, that are in areas that are not safe to be excavated and opened. And years ago, I had a family member that actually went in this cave after hours and discovered caverns inside the cave that are bigger than any that are open to the public. And he discovered bones down there, bones of saber-toothed tigers and of people. And what makes this even worse is this area in the Appalachian Mountains is part of the Cherokee Indians. There's a room in this cave called the Indian Council Chamber, and there are burial grounds in the valley all over the place. And it's such a spiritual place, but it's also a place full of unexplainable things and cryptids. And now as an adult looking back, like sitting in the bottom of that cave by myself when the lights would go out, how did I do that? Like, I wouldn't be doing that now. You're not going to get me in a cave by myself at any point ever again. Back then, I guess I was young and stupid, and I'm really lucky that I was able to make it to adulthood and made it out of that. I know a lot of people who have worked in that cave and heard unexplainable things. I would hear footsteps, I would hear whispers, I would hear what sounded like something swimming through the water. The only thing in that water are trout. Lake trout. There's nothing big in there, nothing big enough to be making water move around like somebody's swimming through it. So I don't know what it was. I never would go investigate, because if you've seen a scary movie, when you investigate those things, you're the person who doesn't make it home that night. And being in the Appalachian Mountains, if you hear something, don't investigate. Like, just let it happen. Don't ever go walking towards it.
Scary story time from when I stayed in a haunted house. So back when I was in college, I was visiting family and I was staying in their house, and it was this really, really, really like very old house, but like super cute, like very well maintained, but like old house. It was so old that like a handful of people over the span of this house's lifetime had passed away. Nothing like crazy or dramatic, just like illness and age, but people had passed away there. I was home alone. Everyone else had gone to go eat or run errands or something, but I was staying and sitting in the computer room, like messing around on Facebook or something like that. It wasn't night yet, but it was like getting toward like sunset times, maybe like, I don't know, 7:30 or so. As I'm on the computer, I hear like what I thought was like the door open and like someone go up the stairs and like walking, like footsteps, like walking around upstairs, like back and forth. Figure someone either like just got home or forgot something and came back. But I'm distracted. I'm doing my own thing. I don't really pay it any mind. And then over like the next, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes, I heard like nothing. And then like footsteps walking above me, like movement above me, nothing, like footsteps. Maybe like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes after that, like I've been hearing this for a while going on. I hear the front door open and I hear like my family like talking and they come in. So I get up and like go into the kitchen, like the foyer front area to greet them. And I'm like, how was it? How was everything? Did you like forget something or what was that? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, who came back already? Like, who's already upstairs? And they looked at me and they're like, no one. Like, we literally just got back. No one's been back till now. And I'm just sitting there like, wait, what? So I've been by myself? And they're like, yeah, what is wrong with you? And I told them, I've been hearing footsteps. Like, someone's been home. Someone came back already. They're like, no, like, you're the only person here. And I'm like, no, I know what I heard. Like, somebody was upstairs. And one of my family members goes, yeah, that happens sometimes. And I'm like, what do you mean that happens sometimes? What happens sometimes? And she's like, yeah, sometimes like you'll be alone and you'll hear like, walking around upstairs, but it's really nothing. It doesn't bother us. Like, what's it? And I'm freaked out, but they're being so chill about this. Like, yeah, we think it's maybe like one of the people that passed away here, but like, it's nothing to worry about. Needless to say, I like barely slept the rest of the time I was there. And I did stay there one other time and had a weird experience. I'll make a video about that one. But yeah, like I don't know, like we believe in like jinn rather than like ghosts or energy, but would love to hear, your thoughts or if you've ever had anything weird happen when you're home alone.
Let's read another one of your stories. My name is Emma, and I'm 21. Here's my story. I don't talk about this much, but 4 years ago, October 14, 2021, something happened to me in the Appalachian Mountains that I still don't have a real explanation for. I was 17 at the time. My family had rented a small off-grid cabin near the North Carolina-Tennessee border, not far from a less used section of the Appalachian Trail. There was no cell service, no neighbors, just woods that went on forever. That first evening, everything felt normal. Quiet, cold, the kind of quiet where you can hear leaves falling. At around 9:40 p.m., I went outside to take pictures of the stars. That's when I heard something that sounded wrong. It wasn't an animal, it wasn't a person either. It sounded like someone was trying to imitate a human voice, but not quite getting it right. Like a whisper that was too slow, stretched out, drifting through the trees. And then it said my name. Not loud, not clear, just enough to make my stomach drop. I hadn't told anyone I was going outside. I froze. The woods went completely silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing. Oh no. Then, from somewhere deeper in the trees, it said my name again, this time closer. I went back inside and locked the door. I didn't tell my family. I knew how it would sound. That night at 2:17 a.m., I woke up because I felt like someone was standing near me. I'm sorry, that freaked me out. I could hear slow footsteps on the porch. The wood creaked like someone was shifting their weight. Then came the tapping. 3 slow taps on the window next to my bed. I stared at the curtain, too scared to move. A shadow passed across it, tall and thin, like something leaning down to look inside. Then it whispered again, my name. In the morning, I went outside. There were bare footprints in the dirt below my window. Long, narrow, and too deep, like whatever made them was heavier than a person should be. They didn't lead away, they stopped right there. Later that day, we went hiking. I tried to forget about it, but about an hour into the trail, I noticed something I can't explain. Every now and then, I would hear footsteps behind me, but when I turned around, no one was there. Then I heard my mom's voice. She was walking in front of me, but I heard her calling my name from the woods to my right. I didn't answer. The voice kept calling, getting more urgent, more emotional, like it was trying to pull me off the trail. I grabbed my mom's sleeve and told her to keep walking. That night, October 15th, we left early. No one argued. But when we drove away, I looked back at the tree line and saw something standing just inside the woods. Tall, still, watching. I didn't see its face. I don't want to. I still hear my name sometimes when it's very quiet. Oh, that is so scary. That is so scary. I'm glad that you guys all left early and that you got out of there and you are safe, but I think no one will argue that this is a good case of a flesh pedestrian lurking in the woods. The classic tap, tap, tap as well. Like, this is a classic horror story, and I am so terrified that this happened to you. But thank you so much for sharing. This one really got me, and I am going to not be able to sleep tonight, so thanks. As always, if you guys have any stories you'd like me to read, please email them to me, and I will get to them if I can, and I will see you in the next one.
So I think I had a ghost interaction at the antique store today. Stay with me, don't leave. Backstory lore, okay, we love context. So the antique store that I go to, there is a female apparition, ghost, whatever you want to call it, spirit, living upstairs on the second level, and she lives in the office area, and there's a do not enter the office sign. Let me put the picture up. So that's her little dungeon, okay? And you are not to go in there, and apparently people hear typing sounds. I don't know. So today I'm at the antique store, and I'm in the clown section, okay? Remember that. Remember that. So I'm in the clown section. I'm taking a video on my phone because it's like, what is this, honey, type stuff. And all of a sudden, this woman appears behind me, and she's like, do you need help with anything? And at first, I thought she was going to clock me, like, can you stop, like, filming the clown stuff? But no. So we just start chit-chatting, essentially. We're talking about everything and nothing, and I bring up to her, hey, like, have you heard about the fact that there's a female ghost upstairs? Like, is that true? She's like, I live on the second floor. And she's like, no, like, the female ghost, whatever, like, she's never bothered me. Then she looks me dead in the eyes, and she says, but I feel like sometimes ghosts can come through us, to us as people. And she looks at me like all like, and she's like, whether it's to say a message or whatever. And I'm like, then she's like, do you want to go upstairs and see my apartment? And I'm like, yes. Because I'm the character in the movie, like the serial killer movie, like I get taken out first. I'm like the imbecile of the group, the dunce, the group gesture, if you will. The one that walks right into the trap. Anyways, we go upstairs, and this woman's apartment is literally straight out of a 1970s magazine in the best way possible. She had Tiffany lamps everywhere. It was immaculate, immaculately clean, and her kitchen was Apple themed. She had the perfect like 90s Apple setup with all this red stuff and all the things, and it was like so perfect. So anyways, we leave her apartment, and she goes, let me know if you see or hear from the female ghost. Let me know. And I'm like, okay. So I go over to where the female ghost resides, the staircase to which she resides at the top. And there's a clown shelf. Like there's another clown area right in front of there. Remember when I said, remember the clowns? When I first ran into the lady, I was at the clown area. The second clown area leads to the actual ghost. Long story short, I think that the female ghost was just saying hi to me. And I think that she was like, you know what? You've been here enough times. You've been respectful. Come on upstairs. I think.
Before I knew what I was doing as a psychic, I had a spirit walk into my room, tap me, and wake me up to let me know my roommate had forgotten something. About 7 or 8 years ago now, I lived in a house with my band. These big, like 8-bedroom houses. I had my bedroom upstairs with all of the kids. So all the kids' bedrooms were upstairs, and same with mine. I was sleeping, and middle of the night, I get woken up by footsteps outside the door. And I like open my eyes, I look, I don't see any kids there. And I say hello, there's no answer, so I start dozing back to sleep. I hear more footsteps. Open my eyes, nothing there. And by this point, I'm used to the ghosts and stuff, and I'm a lot less scared than I used to be. But I close my eyes, I hear the footsteps again, and I get a little tap on my shoulder. I open my eyes, nobody's there. So I'm like, okay, I'm awake now. I sit up, and I see a shadow from my door go down the hallway. So I was like, okay, I'm getting up, I'm following this. I have a weird gross feeling now, something is wrong. And I get out of bed, and I decide to go follow this shadow. So I get to my bedroom door and look down the hallway. The shadow is gone, but I can still feel the presence of it there. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk down the hallway towards the kitchen. So the closer I get to the kitchen, the more it smells like burning, the more it smells like smoke. And so I walk around the corner and realize that one of my roommates have left a pot on the stove and it is on fire. So I go over there, I turn off the stove, take the pot off, and then look over, and our kitchen door to outside is open. So all the smoke was mostly going out there, which was weird. So I deal with the fire, close the door, look around, nobody's up, nobody's awake, everything's okay. And I see that shadow again. It just kind of looks at me like, good job, and then disappears. I didn't know how to talk to them back then, so I didn't know what exactly was happening. I just knew the feelings, right? So if I'd have known back then what I know today, I could have saved myself a lot of hassles. If you're interested in developing your psychic abilities and not being afraid of these spirits or entities that come to you, my community on school, I have a bunch of work at your own pace, step-by-step activities to develop your psychic abilities, your clairs, learn to read auras, and everything that you could possibly need to know to get started. All right, friends, have a magical fucking day.
Go ahead and pour your tea, because tonight's story starts in the Appalachian Mountains at summer camp and ends with something smiling in the window. So grab your favorite tea and settle in, and let me tell you another scary story that happened in the Appalachian Mountains, because of course, this is Tea After Midnight. Always good tea. This story comes from Katie. Growing up here, I always thought that the things people warned you about could only come out at night. I have since learned that is not the case. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, the creatures that lurk in the forest are always watching. This story happened when I was 15. My parents signed me up to go to this church camp for a week in the summer. I really didn't want to go, but I found out one of my friends from school was going, so I figured it wouldn't be bad. Erin and I didn't really hang out all the time. We just knew each other from a few classes, and we would talk here and there, so I considered her to be a friend. Well, the time came for the summer camp, and we were told to meet in the church parking lot at 8 a.m., and a bus would take us to the camp. I showed up and immediately saw Erin standing there by herself. I walk over to her and try to make small talk, and after a few minutes we were told to load onto the bus so we could leave. The camp was only an hour away, which felt like a quick drive since Erin and I talked the whole way. We arrived and they started separating the girls and boys and showing us where we would be sleeping. The cabins were fairly nice. I mean, for it being a cabin in the woods used for a kid's summer program, they were in decent shape. Erin and I got a bunk bed off the corner of the room next to the window. The one thing about this place was it didn't have air conditioning. They had these ceiling fans that did work, so that was a plus, but we wanted to be by the window in case we needed to lift it if we got hot. And you don't have to tell me not to open the window at night, because after what happened to me and Erin, I won't ever do it again. The first day and night were fine. We went out and played games and swam in the lake and then finished up the day by the fire. We slept fine, and in the morning we got dressed and headed out to get breakfast. While we were all eating, the pastor told us what we would be doing that day. He told us we would be going on a nature walk, and let's chalk this up to what it actually was. We went hiking. It was so hot that day, and Erin and I were falling behind, so we ended up at the back of the group. We were trying our best to keep up with the rest of the group, but Erin stopped to drink her water and catch her breath. I stopped with her because I didn't want her to be by herself. We only stopped for about 2 minutes, but the group was no longer in sight. I told Erin we needed to start catching up with them or we would get left behind. She agreed, and as she bent down putting her water bottle in her drawstring bag, we heard something like a branch snap in the woods beside us. Erin looked a little startled, but I told her it was probably a deer or something and that we should go. We jogged down the trail and finally caught up to the group, and I kept looking over at Erin to make sure she was okay, but I could tell that she felt really uncomfortable. We get to a stopping point and the pastor tells us to pair up because we were doing a scavenger hunt. Of course, Erin and I paired up, and the pastor hands us a list of items we need to get. He set a timer for 15 minutes and told us not to go too far, and when we got our items to meet back there so we could see who won. The list was random things like 1 rock, 2 pine cones, 3 big leaves, so on and so forth. Erin and I split off from the group. I was looking on the ground for the items on the list when I heard what sounded like crying and sniffling. I turn around and look at Erin, and she is actively sobbing. I walk over to her and put my hand on her shoulder and ask her what's wrong. She told me that she could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I asked her what she meant, and she said she didn't know, that she just felt like something was wrong, and that she felt like something was watching her. I asked her if she wanted to head back to the cabin, and she said yes. I went and found one of the chaperones, and they took Erin back to the cabin. I stayed with the group, and after the scavenger hunt, we finished our nature walk and got back to the camp. After dinner, we were supposed to roast marshmallows, so I went to the cabin to see if Erin wanted to come out there. When I go in there, I didn't see her in her bed. The window was open, and when I looked outside, I could see her standing by the lake. I walked down there, and I asked her if she was okay, but she didn't respond to me. I got closer, and I touched her shoulder and said, "Hey, are you okay?" But when I touched her shoulder, she felt really cold. Without turning her head, she said she was fine. I asked if she wanted to come and roast marshmallows, and she just said no. I thought maybe she wanted to be by herself, so I walked back up to the cabin to go grab her a jacket because she felt so cold. As soon as I opened the door to the cabin, I can see Erin laying in bed. I got so freaked out, I ran over to the window and looked outside and did not see anyone standing down there at the lake. There was no possible way she was down there, then back in the cabin that quickly without me seeing her go past me. At that point, I thought I was losing my mind. I looked at Erin and said, "Were you just down at the lake?" She said, "No, I was in the bathroom." I told her I just saw her down at the lake, and when I touched her shoulder, she felt really cold, so I come up here to get her a jacket, but she's sitting right here. Erin looked very frightened, which matched my expressions exactly. I decided to stay in there with her because I didn't want to be out there with whatever I just saw. I sat on the bed next to her, and we just talked about what it could have possibly been that I saw, but of course we didn't have an explanation. After a while, the rest of the girls started to come in and get ready for bed. I climbed up on the top bunk above Erin, and the girl that was in the bed next to us closed the window before she got into bed. I eventually fell asleep, but in the middle of the night, I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I was only in there for a few minutes, and when I came out, I noticed that the window next to our bed was open. But everyone in that room was sound asleep, so I figured Erin or the girl in the bed next to us had opened it. But after what I saw earlier that night, I closed the window. I climbed back up on top of the bunk and turned facing the wall. As soon as I covered myself up, I heard what sounded like the window sliding open. I roll over and look down, and I will never forget what I saw. I see Erin standing outside of the cabin pushing the window up to open it, but that was not Erin because I tilted over the side and looked underneath my bed and saw Erin sleeping below me. I looked back at the window, and the thing pretending to be Erin was standing there staring at me and smiling. I then started to hear crying from below me. The thing outside the window looked over at Erin and reached in through the window to try and grab her. Erin started screaming, which woke everyone in the cabin up, and the thing outside ran off. I jumped down from the top bunk, slammed the window shut and locked it, and got in Erin's bed with her, hugging her. The chaperones come over to ask what was going on, and we told them exactly what we saw because Erin saw it too. Of course they didn't believe us, and they had us call our parents to come pick us up in the middle of the night. Which honestly, there was no complaint from us because we knew what we saw, and it was absolutely terrifying, and we didn't want to spend one more night there with whatever that was. Erin and her family ended up moving that summer, and I've not gotten to talk to her since that night. As I've gotten older, I've done some research on what it was that we saw, and the best answer I can come up with is a mimic. I remember this so vividly, even though it happened 20 years ago. I will absolutely never forget how much that thing resembled Erin and how terrified I was after that night. But I can only imagine how scared Erin was seeing something that looked just like her. I wholeheartedly believe what they saw was a mimic because it not only looked like her, but it sounded just like her too. And what's even more terrifying is that Erin felt like something was watching her while they were in the woods hiking. So there's no telling how long that thing was actually following her, trying to imitate what she looked like and sounded like. I have full body chills because that is absolutely terrifying that something not only looked and sounded like her, but tried to grab her through the window. That is actually terrifying. You guys let me know in the comments if you think it's something different than a mimic, but after everything that I read, I believe it was a mimic. But that does conclude this episode of Tea After Midnight. If you have any personal scary stories you want to share, it does not have to be about the Appalachian Mountains. It can be any scary story that you have. If you want to send it to me, you can email me, which the email will be right here on the screen, or I'll also put it in the caption of this video. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and I hope you have the best night, and I'll catch you in the next one.
We all know the Appalachian Mountains are completely scary, and many people go missing there every year with no explanation. Here are some of the creatures that live within the forest that you might encounter that, trust me, you just don't want to encounter. First, the Wumpus Cat. I think I said that right. This is half woman and half mountain lion, and it's described to be completely horrifying. Locals say that she stalks campers or any person that disrespect the land, and the last thing you want to see is her glowing eyes. They say her scream sounds human, and if you hear it twice, trust me, you won't be alive in the morning. Then there's the whistlers. These are described to be something that you completely don't want to encounter. If you hear whistling in the mountains, don't whistle back. If you whistle back, they will mimic you, and trust me, there's plenty of stories of people who have encountered these beings because they whistled back. There's a story of a hiker that supposedly whistled back to the whistles he heard from the mountains, and the next day his tent was found completely shredded. The mountains were silent for days, and remember, when it's silent, that means you are not alone.
I know it's been a while, but I have an SW story time. The person who submitted it wants to be anonymous. He's actually still terrified. This happened right outside of Gallup, New Mexico. I was driving late one night on one of those lonely stretches of road when my friend needed to use the bathroom. It was about 1:30 a.m., so we decided to stop at this gas station. As I'm sitting in the car waiting for my friend to come out of the gas station, I look across the street. There's like a street lamp. Right underneath the street lamp, I see a dog. It looked like a husky just sitting there. I was confused because it was late and there was no one else in sight. As my friend got in the car, I kind of pointed to the dog and said, look over there. There's a husky right across the street. The moment my friend looked over across the street, we saw as the dog started to rise up, but not in like a dog way, in a human way. Both my friend and I were stuck there staring at this dog. We couldn't look away even if we wanted to. It was almost like this dog was making us stare at it. As we stared at it even longer, the dog stood up even straighter. Its body now looked human, but its face resembled a wolf. As we're there, like just not sure what to do because we can't even move, the dog just kind of drops back down on all fours and it runs back into the woods. After that took place, neither my friend and I have talked about it. I feel like we're both kind of in shock and unsure as to what exactly we witnessed, but we both do know that this thing saw us and it knew who we were or what we were, or that we were looking from across the street. So to this day, I still wonder that if I ever happen to go across that same road, if I'm gonna come across it and if it will remember me.
This is the creepiest one.
I came out here to check on the chickens.
Creepiest I've seen yet.
I just heard. First off, I heard my name. Second off, it sounded like somebody was saying, help me.
Why are you bringing us outside? No. Do you hear this? Now, I will admit that is the first time I've seen something online about the Appalachian Mountains that I'm like, okay, this is giving me chills, genuinely. But at the same time, it definitely could be a skit. Like, a lot of the times, these things look very much real, and it's a whole skit, like someone's in the dark saying that. But it's something sinister about what I just heard. The help me. I promise you, every single day I open this app, I'm figuring out why I am not going to go to the Appalachian Mountains. Not to mention the fact that never mind. I can't even say that on this app without my video getting taken down. Just know the map of people that are no longer here and the map of the cave systems, specifically under the Appalachian Mountains. They coincide. They directly line up. So what's really going on? It's definitely giving, honestly, like what we just saw is definitely giving mimics. And mimics, a lot of people think like they're just, regular creepy creatures. I think that these mimics are familiar spirits. I think they watch us, and I think they use the voices of people that we love or someone that we like. They think that would draw us into the danger, and then that's when bad things happen. That's what I think, genuinely, because I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too deep into it. Just know there is a lot of creepy things going on in the wilderness, and it just really makes me think, because of how old a lot of these woods are, like they are older than freaking dirt. What is lurking in those woods in the dark that has been here for centuries? What is out there for real? Like, do you ever drive down those long roads at night, and there's nothing but pitch black and forest on either side of you, and you're like, what is going on in those woods right now? Who's out there? Anyway, as always, make sure you like and follow, comment down below what you think.
Okay, well, now I'm in a storytelling mood, so here are some more Toby stories. If you didn't see my first video, Toby is the demon that has followed me and my family since I was in 3rd grade is my earliest memory. Yeah, we have a lot of stories. So one of the earliest memories I have is when I was in 3rd grade, and this started the reason why I wouldn't shower with the shower curtain closed until I think it was like 3 years ago, so 25. And before anyone's like, clear liners, glass doors, I tried it and I would still like start having panic attacks in the shower. So when I was a kid, we lived in an apartment, and we've lived in many apartments, but one of the apartments we lived in, I would go in to take a shower, and when I would close the shower curtain, there would be a very clear outline of like a person, and I would open the shower curtain and nothing's there. I close it and it would reappear, and then it would start to move. I tried so many times to replicate a shadow or something to tell myself I was just like freaking out for no reason, but it would start to move and it would just like pace and walk, and you get that feeling, you know, when it's something else. I got that feeling. I felt like I was constantly being watched. And also, let's be honest, the shower is one of the most vulnerable places. So as a kid who's already terrified, I started showering just with the shower curtain open, but then water would get everywhere and my mom would get really mad. And that was when that was one of the first things that it started doing to me. Like, it would start kind of terrorizing me in the bathroom. And I didn't know at the same time, simultaneously, every night it was terrorizing my mother. And my mom, obviously not wanting to freak out her children, isn't gonna say what's going on with her every single night, but apparently she knew what was happening, and she was trying her hardest on the back end to get rid of it, like performing secret exorcisms while we were at school. So I should also say, this apartment that we lived at this time, my mom and my stepdad were neighbors. So essentially we had 2 apartments right next to each other. So there were many reasons why they did that, but as kids we loved it because it was 2 apartments, you know, we got to go over there or we got to go over there. But as a result, where we went, Toby went. And my stepdad, believe me or not, whatever people believe it or not, my stepdad, when he was younger, had a near-death experience. Since then, he's able to see things. He has seen Toby. So while my mom was going to bed every night, her closet was ice cold, no matter the time of year. Granted, we were in Wisconsin, but even in the summer, her closet was like 35 degrees. It was cold in there, and you got this very unsettling feeling when you went in there. It was just one of those apartment walk-in closets. It was a little small one, but it was very cold in there, and that's where its hub was. That's where it lived. So I guess every time my mom would try to go to sleep, she would lay on her back and she'd shut her eyes, and she said she'd feel this like whoosh. And she said she would just lay there shaking and would not open her eyes because she felt something in her face. Oh my God, my cat just sneezed. As you can see, this still really freaks me out. But yeah, so she could feel something in her face every single night. And she said she'd just pray and she'd just ask it. But she'd also ask it to leave her kids alone. If it's going to bother anybody, bother her, let her kids sleep. And it did. We would sleep fine, but it was when we'd come home after school and my mom's at work that it would mess with us. Or when we were alone taking a shower, it would mess with us. So apparently one day, my mom finally asked my stepdad and said, hey, I need you to come check out my closet. He comes over, not just to get into it. They didn't have a great relationship, aka 2 apartments, okay? So she asked him to come over. Our apartment, it was a door opens to stairs and then the apartment. So we were in an upstairs apartment, but our front door was downstairs. You walk up the stairs And she said he walked up the stairs, and when he turned, it was just a hallway straight to my mom's bedroom where the closet was. She said he walked up the stairs, turned, and locked eyes with something. And he said he put his arm, like moved my mom behind him and said, "Lisa, get out of here." And all while maintaining eye contact. And my mom's like, what? And he's like, "Lisa, get out of here." And she's like, okay. So they left. And I guess he kept eyes with something as he walked backwards down the steps. His family, being very Catholic, he called his friend, priest, whoever you want to call him, to come over and perform a blessing exorcism on the house. This was around Christmas time when this happened. We were at school when this happened. So they did the exorcism and blessing in my mom's apartment, and nothing really happened, but they felt a very heavy presence. They then moved to my dad's apartment. I'm like shaking as I tell this. They then moved to my dad's apartment, and while my dad and the priest are standing in the living room saying their prayer, the Christmas tree apparently started to spin, and that's when my dad had this searing pain across his back, and they took his shirt off, and he had 3 claw marks through his back, like razor blades through his back. Our dog was also apparently going freaking crazy. He was apparently barking non-freaking stop. So they powered through that. They thought they got to the end of it. It kept happening, like little things, but then it was also, again, with the family of, I'm going to keep it to myself. My mom kept it to herself, my dad, my sisters, like, we didn't want to acknowledge it, because if we acknowledged it, it was still real. And there were also definitely points where it was, like, quiet, where it wasn't story after, or event after event after event. Like, there were quiet periods, but then there were also loud periods. We did end up moving shortly after all of this happened, and I think my parents thought it wouldn't follow us, but it did. I think it followed us to Arizona from Wisconsin and back. So it was latched to us, and it's been a few years. I also moved away, so I don't know if it's still affecting anybody in my family, but it hasn't affected me in many years. It did come to me in a dream shortly after I moved here. And yeah, what happened there, I remember, this was in my old apartment because I recently moved again, but in my old apartment, I woke up, it was like a lucid dream almost. Like I was conscious, but I woke up and I could tell there was someone in my living room. But the way the layout of my old apartment was my bedroom was in the back, and then it was like a long hallway and then there was a living room. So I was in my bedroom and I could feel something was in my living room. And I was like, I got out of bed in my dream and I walked out to the living room, and facing away from me in front of my window, like my balcony, was, I don't know why it came to me in this form. Maybe because it's kind of scary, but facing away from me was the shape of the widow from Insidious, like that, like the dark veil and everything. And I said, like, oh no, in my dream. And I have what I use when I get scared or need to, like, assert dominance, whatever, is what helps me is I have a St. Michael prayer, or a Michael the Archangel prayer card, and a rosary from my dad that was blessed, and I keep that. And so I have that by my bed, and it's hanging by my bed. So in my dream, I needed to go get that. I remember staring it down and saying, "You're not welcome here. You need to leave. This is my house." And that's when it turned around and faced me, and I just kind of tucked tail in my dream. So I tucked tail, ran to my bedroom. That's when I grabbed the rosary. As I grabbed the rosary, I turned around and the widow was in front of me. She grabbed my shoulders, and that's when I was back in my mom's bedroom of the apartment that I was just telling the story about. Yeah, I have so many stories like this, but I'm so happy he has not messed with me in a very long time.
Having a spontaneous friend is not for the faint of heart, because let me show you what your bestie, not mine anymore after this, sent me at 1:30 in the morning. And I'm sure if you follow me, you follow him. His name is Dustin Frazier. He lives in Appalachia too, and he had no business showing me this at 1 a.m., okay? A little backstory, he did already post this video. He did some exploring in the middle of the night, and I'm pretty sure he went by himself because the man has no fear. None. Never met anyone like him in my life. But he's just filming an abandoned little area. We're exploring, and there is something unexplainable in one of the windows. And I just want to show it to you because neither him nor myself could debunk this.
Do you see? Do we see? And then it's gone.
Something's on the fucking roof.
And then like, I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's. But that looks further away. That looks like a tree. But like the other thing, I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching.
Something's on the fucking roof.
Ew! Ew!
If you love all things paranormal, like a good ghost story or a scary movie, but you think deep down you could never do that, you couldn't go out hunting for ghosts or be a medium because you're too scared, your fear is actually a sign of just how sensitive you are. I am a psychic medium today. When I was a kid, I was the biggest scaredy cat you'd ever see. I could talk about ghost stories, but when me and my friends got old enough to go out and investigate on our own as teenagers, I sat in the car. I'm like, I'm going to make sure things are good in here. You guys go out there and run around dark cemeteries or look in the windows of old abandoned buildings. It wasn't going to be me. And once I started doing this work, I sat with Spirit because I was like, how could I have been so fearful if I had such a natural connection? And Spirit did as Spirit does and said, of course you felt fear because you actually were picking up on the energy. My friends were not catching things out of the corner of their eyes when they got out, ran around in the dark. They weren't hearing their name called. They weren't feeling the emotional residue of a place, but I was. And once I learned that the human body can only process energy in so many ways, and when we interact with spirit energy, many times it's going to come across first as fear or anxiety. That freed me from so much misinterpretation and the Hollywood ideas that everything is demonic or evil. That just needs to go out the window. So if you've written yourself off and you think you can't get into this kind of stuff because you're too scared, I actually think you're too sensitive and you have great natural abilities that you can definitely develop.
Evil people really be a trip. When I was a CNA, I used to work with an old man named Winston, and he could see things the rest of us just couldn't. And the crazy part was, Winston was always right. Winston was calm, kind, and he was the type of patient that just everyone loved, and he could make your shift always better. But every now and then, he would say some things that just didn't make much sense until they did. One day, a resident had a brother that was visiting. It was a normal visit, nothing out the ordinary, but Winston seemed to be watching this man a little bit too closely. And then he looked at me and he said, that man used to attend picnics back in his day. It is time, for some moral justice, Now I'm thinking like family cookouts, gatherings. So I really just brushed the statement off and I just go about my shit. About a week later, that same man comes back, and this time there's some type of tension. Voices were raised, and the argument was kind of getting out of hand. And then out of nowhere, that man looks Winston dead in his eye and say, boy, you would be at a picnic if I had it my way. And when I say I have never seen Winston react like that, his whole energy shifted. He stood up so fast and he went straight for that man. But before he could even reach him, that man dropped. And I'm talking about straight back, unresponsive. And I couldn't help but to think, was it fate or fear? We called the code, 911, CPR was started, and everything was moving fast. But as Winston and I stood there, we both seen something that nobody else seemed to react to. And shout out to Tamika for fueling this story time as she bought me a coffee. Thanks, boo. There was a large, taller than tall, dark figure that just seemed to come and pick the man up as if he weighed nothing, threw him over his shoulder, and then walked straight through the wall. And he was gone. Everything went quiet except for the chaos around us. And Winston, he just laughed. And he said, see, that's why I don't need to let people rattle me, because they always get what they deserve. So now, I gotta ask you, do you know what that man meant when he said picnics? Let me know, and also help me figure out, was it fear or fate that made that man go unresponsive in that moment? And if you have a scary story that you would like to submit, you can send it to denise.julesstories@gmail.com. And as always, make sure you have your best spooky day. Bye.
All right, this is like my 5th time trying to start a video. So anyways, I'm just sitting in my parking lot at work waiting to go in, and I got a little time to burn, so I figured I'd drop a ghost story real quick. So growing up, and by the way, my name is Jesse, and I am with Paranormal Madhouse. So growing up, I grew up in foster care, and a couple of those times, there wasn't nowhere for me to go, or they would move me or something, or had to make room or move me, and so they moved me to this freshly new all-boys home. Well, it used to be co-ed, but because of the circumstances with people getting together, even at a young age, they had to make everything just boys or just girls. There was no, it began, like, foster care began starting to segregate boys and girls and things like that, which I grew up in foster care from when I was 7 till I was 18. And like I said, a couple of those places were all boys homes. So I went to this all boys home, and there was a couple girls there still waiting to be placed somewhere else, but they were on the far end of the building. We seen them, throughout the day or whatever, but they were like never really in our neighborhood and or our part of the building. And so anyways, I remember one night I was sitting with my the guy that I was in a room with. I want to say guy, we were kids, like 11, 12 years old. And he told me, he was like, yeah, he goes, I heard that there was a 17-year-old girl that hung herself in the bathroom. Now, I don't know how true that was or whatever, but I remember him saying it to me. And I don't know how much longer it was over that, but I remember going to sleep one night, and I woke up, and there was a ghost. Well, I thought it was a real person. I didn't think it was a ghost at first. There was the figure of I would say 16 to 17-year-old female standing at the end of my bed. I remember her face was like sheet white. She had dark eyeliner on, black, and then like a black lipstick, and her hair went down to like her shoulder length, all jet black. Jet black hair, eyeliner, lipstick, sheet white face. And she had this button-down Raiders jacket. It had like the old school Raiders patch on the one side, and then button down the middle, and it had like that satin sheen. I could see it kind of within from like the night light we had in the room. And I just stared at her, and I said to her, I said, you better get out of here before you get in trouble. And I rolled over and went back to sleep. I thought it was a real person. I didn't think it was a ghost. I didn't think it was anything other than that. I thought it was a real person. Strange looking person, but a real person. But that was the kind of people you kind of got, in the foster care system. So that morning, the next morning, we got up and we were eating breakfast, and I just said to one of the other guys, or kids, I keep saying guys, but we were kids, and I said, has anybody seen that girl that was in here last night? And they're like, what? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, girls over here, and so I had said something to the foster parent, and they said nobody came in here that looked like that last night. So, and there was no girls in there. So that was my first experience with that thing, the entity, whatever it was. That was in roughly 1991, I believe. Fast forward to 1994, 95, somewhere in there. Again, I was up in Bay City at an all-boys home, no girls whatsoever. I say all-boys home, it was a foster home for all boys. You know, there was no girls or nothing there. This home I was in was a pretty big home, also next to a cemetery in Bay City, over by the hospital. And some of you who are from the Bay City area may know, right over by Central High School, there's a hospital, Central High School, and then our foster home was like right in between a cemetery and the hospital, out of all places, huh? Anyways, so I was getting ready to go to bed. My foster brother, Jimmy, was underneath me. I remember him reading some kind of book. I remember him flipping through pages, and I had my head on the side of my face on the pillow, facing out towards the bedroom, and the bunk bed board was like, there was like that much space between the mattress and the bunk bed board. And I remember closing my eyes for a little bit and then opening them up, and that same girl that I seen back in 1991, now 95, 94, somewhere in there, I opened my eyes up and her face was literally that close to my face. I mean, that close, up to the bed. I'm telling you what, I freaked the F out. I mean, I got up, ran out of that room screaming, I mean, making all sorts of ruckus and chaos. But it happened split second. As soon as I seen it, I screamed and like freaked out, and then she was gone, and then I freaking ran out of the room screaming, scared, and all that. So that's one ghost story that I've had. I tell that quite a bit. It might not sound that scary, but to see it, very scary. She is probably, if it's a she, probably one of the clearest examples I could probably give of seeing a ghost, an entity. So I've seen multiple things, and I could tell more stories down the road, but that one has really stuck out to me, just for the clarity of it, and for the first time I seen her, it was down in southeast Michigan, and then the second time I seen her a few years later, it was literally 4 hours north. So I mean, possibly an attachment or something along those lines. I'm not sure. She obviously followed me. I never seen her in between those time periods, never had a hint of her, nothing like that. So, but now I do, and I keep her fresh in my memory, because I tell that ghost story quite a bit. But yeah, first time I seen her was down in southeast Michigan area, and then the second time I seen her was like four hours north in Bay City, with like 3 or 4 years in between. So still don't know her name, to this day I haven't seen her since, haven't had any weird stuff happen associated with her since, but I definitely seen a pale white 17-year-old girl 2 different times, as clear as what I'm looking into this camera. I mean, it was probably one of the spookiest things, and it just gives me chills even thinking about it. But it might not be like a jump scare, but it was scary. And now thinking about it, and that second time I seen her, like I said, I opened my eyes and her face was literally probably like 5 inches away from my face. And man, I freaked out. But so anyways, that's one of my ghost stories, and this is Jesse with Paranormal Madhouse, and we're gearing up for this weekend. Stay tuned, it's gonna be fun, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
So listen to me. So this guy's girlfriend talks in her sleep, which is completely normal, but I guess the things that she's been saying recently are horrifying. I'm assuming this guy wants to remain anonymous because there is no name attached to the story, but he talks about how he first started dating his girlfriend and how he was immediately like infatuated with her, and not in a healthy way. I guess it was like so far that he felt like he couldn't be apart from her. And if he was, he didn't really know what to do with himself. He would just kind of sit on the couch and wait for her to reach out to him. He literally describes it as exhausting, trying to keep up with this infatuation that he has. He compares it to like when the Greek gods say that we're like split down the middle and like we're two halves. He said he felt like he found his other half, but he couldn't get close enough to her. But he compares it to a curse, and that he feels like his infatuation has like possessed him. The way he describes her is that like basically she was like the perfect person. They were sexually active in like the dating phase of everything, but they finally reached the point that it was kind of make or break. They were either going to be in a relationship or they were going to start to drift apart. And he basically says that he wouldn't be able to handle the latter. He would not be able to be apart from her. It's so bad that they're a couple months into dating and he's already thinking about proposing. At this point, they had not stayed the night over at each other's houses. No matter how late they were hanging out, once one of them showed a sign of like being tired, she would basically just get up, kiss him goodnight, and say, "Call me soon." So they're hanging out late one night, and it takes a full bottle of wine for him to finally ask about it. He basically brings up like, "Hey, we've been dating for 8 weeks. Why haven't we had a little sleepover? Why haven't we stayed the night at each other's houses?" And she kind of like looks defeated. She's like, "Okay, I knew this talk was going to come at some point." And she starts to explain to him that recently she has started talking in her sleep and she's like super embarrassed about it. So he kind of just like laughs and is like, really like, that's the reason why I haven't been able to stay the night. But she's not laughing. She tells him like, "No, you need to listen to me. I say like the most horrible things in my sleep and I don't want to scare you off." So he grabs her and basically tells her there is nothing that's going to scare him off and that she should stay the night. And that's where he made a mistake. So she decides to stay. And she tells him, "Hey, when I start talking in my sleep, do me a favor, do not wake me up because I will be super disoriented. Just ignore it." And he basically says, like, "It's okay. If it gets to be too much, I'll just go and sleep on the couch." But he also told her, like, "Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Everything will be fine." But again, he was wrong. He couldn't even last one night. So they fell asleep with no issue. But he wakes up a few hours later, and he notices that he just kind of has this weird feeling of being watched. But then he remembered that his girlfriend was there, so he figures that must just be it. But that's when he turned around, and he looked at her, and he saw a shadowy outline of somebody sitting up in bed. And he realizes that she's sitting straight up, staring at him, and that's when she spoke. She sounded much lower and much more gravelly, and she said, "I'll chew the skin from your bones." So he froze because he was expecting like she'd probably like cuss or like do random like outbursts and stuff. He wasn't expecting this. And so he started thinking like what is he going to do if she actually tries to like attack him right now? What if she really does try to chew the skin from his bones? But then she laid down and she went back to sleep. So he tries to go back to sleep too, but he is struggling because he's just kind of getting this overwhelming feeling that he's being watched again. And so he keeps looking over at her to make sure that she's not sitting up again. And one of the times that he rolls over, she is. She says in the same gravelly tone, "If you don't move to the couch, you'll be dead by morning." So that did it for him. He got up, he went out to the living room, and he laid on the couch. And he laid there trying to go to sleep, but he couldn't. He just ended up staring out the window, waiting for sunrise to come. But while he's laying there in the dark, he hears something from the bedroom. In the same voice, she's calling his name. He ignored it at first, but then she calls it again. She says nothing for a little while. Then she says, "I know you can hear me. I know you're awake. How about you come back to the bedroom? Or would you prefer it if I go out there?" Then he hears her stand up and start walking over toward the bedroom door. He wanted to run out of the apartment, but he was trying to avoid waking her up because of the wish that she had made before they had gone to bed. Then he heard her one more time, saying, "Sorry if I spoiled your plans. I know you were going to propose. You were going to get down on one knee and you were going to ask me to marry you." And he had not told anyone about this. Again, they had been dating for a few months, so this was a crazy thought. But somehow she knew that he was going to ask. So this is where we are now. He's held up in his living room, still in the middle of the night, writing out this story. And he's stuck. He doesn't know what to do. He knows he should leave, but he's already a little bit too out of control with this infatuation over her, and he can't leave her now. And it's stories exactly like this that make me not want to re-enter the dating scene, because You know what? If I ever encountered this, I'm already 40 miles away the second you start talking. Chew the skin off my bones? Absolutely not. No. Anyways, if you guys like today's story, do me a favor, throw a like on the video, maybe give me a follow if you like them, because I tell them all the time, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
You ever wonder why night shifts seem to get just such a bad reputation? Because everyone thinks that the hardest part of working nights is staying awake while everyone else is asleep. Wrong. Night shift in healthcare has a bad reputation for a reason, and it goes back further than some of us knows. This story comes from a viewer in Louisiana. She said in the 90s, she took a night shift hospice case for a patient they told her used to be a doctor. They didn't mention what kind of doctor he used to be, but the day shift caregivers had given him a nickname, the night doctor. They didn't really explain why, and working nights back then meant no phone, no internet, just silence. So she spent her time reading. The house was full of normal medical textbooks until she found one that was handwritten. No title, no author, and inside it was an organized clinical log. Locations, times, procedures, and the outcomes. And at first she thought it was like some type of research until she started reading a little bit closer. And the procedures described removing organs like kidneys, portions of the liver, the spleen, and it was written like case studies, precise, methodical. And it wasn't just a few entries, it was dozens with different names. And she said that's when something in her mind just clicked. And she remembered hearing that term, night doctors, before. Old stories from the people in the South that used to talk about the doctors who worked on patients outside of the hospitals at night. The people who didn't have anyone to ask questions about them. She closed that book. She felt sick to her stomach and she never touched it again. She had some time off. She comes back. The house felt off. It was too still and too quiet, and there was a faint smell of something rotten, like something was caught in the walls. The day shift caregiver seemed a little bit skittish, and she told her that the patient was declining. So they went back to the room to check on the patient, and the night doctor was sitting straight up in the bed, eyes wide, tracking something that wasn't there, and he was rattling breaths in between. But his eyes reflected a light that was too bright and too sharp and wasn't in the room because it was dimly lit. And his face didn't have a look of confusion. It looked like he was scared. And as her and the day shift caregiver get ready to walk out of the room, they hear a thump. He falls back to the bed. Neither one of them panicked. The day shift caregiver didn't even rush. She says, people know what the night doctors used to do back in the day. This is the reason why people have a hard time trusting night shift, because the things that happen weren't always written down. Let me know what you think about that story, and have you ever heard the terms night doctors? And make sure, as always, you have your best spooky day. Bye!
How many of y'all are afraid of the dark? Or are you afraid of what's in the dark? That's the question. Hey Toxins, welcome back to my page where I don't spill tea, I brew coffee, and not everything that I serve is gonna be safe. See, people be making fun of me because they think that I'm scared of the dark. They think that I be joking when I tell them I sleep with a nightlight on. And I have a TV on too. Hell yeah, you damn right I do. But I ain't scared of no punk ass dark. I'm scared of what's in the dark. And that's a major difference. Because the first rule of the vessel is that you never under any circumstance put your mouth where there is no resonance. So why are you letting people put their opinion on your well? I don't give a damn if you think I'm scared of the dark. Bitch, no. See, that's where y'all got it all twisted. Y'all think darkness is nothing. No. Darkness is where things move. It's where Jeep Creeply is. It's where things be moving without being seen. That feeling that you get when you wake up in the middle of the night and something just feels off. It be too quiet, too still, like the room ain't empty, like it's supposed to be empty. No, that's the shit I'm being scared. It's what's in the dark. And that ain't your imagination. That be you sensing something that your eyes can't catch. Like little jinns and fucking gnomes in the corner looking at you, and Shadow Man and Hat Man. Because the darkness where the shadows, they don't stay still. They shift when you're not looking, and you got footsteps that don't have bodies. Yeah, I don't fuck with that. And then when you got doors that move by itself to let something pass through without making a sound. Have you ever noticed how the corner of your room feel heavier at night? Like something is just standing there watching you while you sleep, just outside of your vision? Hell no, that's the dark. No, You ever feel your bed just go down slightly, like the weight just sat down, like somebody sat on your damn bed and you know you're the only one in here? That's the dark that I'm talking about, I'm afraid of. How about you ever had something touch your head right before you fall asleep? Or call your name, but ain't nobody called you. Ain't nobody in there. That's the dark. Y'all ever pull the covers up real quick like something might grab your feet? Don't even know why you did it, but your body did it anyways, because something in you knows. There are things that move better when they can't see them, when you can't see them. Things that don't even like light, things that don't even like being noticed, things that stand still and then they wait for you to relax so that you can move, so they can move freely. That's why I keep my light on. It's not out of fear, it's out of awareness, because the dark don't bother everybody, but it bothers the ones that can feel it. My black ass. So you can laugh all you want, you can call it crazy, you can call it childish, but the same people laughing are the ones who wouldn't even know somebody was in the room with them or something. Shit, your voice is your one, but your well is your shield. Master your well toxins and don't ever let nobody shame you. Shit, especially not for protecting your peace. I'm serving it black today, so drink it with a clean source. Come on, I'm scared of the damn dark.
My family believes someone did brujeria on our grandfather, and I think we brought it home. Scary story time. I'm 21 and this happened a couple of years ago. My family is from Mexico and we've always been very spiritual. Church every Sunday, prayers and all of that. After my grandfather passed away, my dad and brother went through an old storage unit of his. Most of what they found was normal, pictures, documents, and things like that. But then there was this one object that stood out. It was this purple pendant with gold pieces. Nothing crazy at first glance, just something I personally wouldn't wear. My dad ended up putting it on a memorial plaque for my grandmother, and she hung it in her house. And that's when things started changing. Within weeks, we'd come home to things completely out of place. A glass shattered in the middle of the table, plants that were alive suddenly dead, and our dogs refused to go into one specific room. Then it got worse. We started hearing things being knocked over in the middle of the night. Chairs, dishes, even a lamp. My mom and grandma tried lighting a candle during a vigil to stop whatever was happening, but the candle wouldn't stay lit, not even for a few seconds. One night, I woke up to my mom and grandmother rushing me into the living room. My entire family was there, on their knees, holding hands, praying Our Father in Spanish. For almost an hour, and right before we finished, I heard a whisper. Not from anyone in the room. Clear as day, it said, "Déjame en paz. Leave me alone." A few days later, I noticed the pendant was gone. No one would tell me why, but after that, everything stopped. Last year, before my grandmother passed, she revealed that my grandfather had been given that pendant by his brother. The same brother people suspected has something to do with his death. I don't know exactly what happened in that house, but I don't think it was a coincidence. So, do you think objects can carry something, or was this all just a coincidence? What do you think? Let me know.